Good evening, it's 6:36 PM on July 8th, 2025, and we are calling the Groton Town Council Committee of the whole meeting to order. For roll call, we have all present except for Councilor McBride, who reached out just before the meeting that he is unable to attend. And calendar and communications. Councilor Merritt, do you have anything to share this evening?
No, I don't.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. Just want to thank the Groton Parks and Rec for putting on the 4th of July parade. I did not choose to walk in the parade this year, but I did attend, and it was a great time. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Pacino.
I was going to do the same thing, but I was going to thank Melissa Porter. She was extremely helpful and did a fantastic job organizing that parade. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rusk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple things that were concerns noted in the public. There was a question regarding the bridge connecting Quaker Farm and Lambstown Road that happened to be in the town manager's report last week. The bid package is going out soon.
Fall.
In the
late summer, early fall.
late summer, early fall. So that is moving forward. And also, there's been a lot of concern of the intersection of 117 and 184. I know I reached out to the town manager. I believe the mayor has reached out to the town manager regarding it. And we both spoke with DOT when they were here last month. And DOT is looking at the potential of putting a roundabout there. So we are hearing your concerns and moving forward with some of those concerns. And just thank you to Parks and Rec and the Town of Groton Police for all of your hard work for the 4th of July parade. It was a lovely parade, and it was a lot of fun to walk in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also, thanks to all the residents who came out. I think it was very well attended. Our 4th of July parade this year was a lot of fun. The weather was really nice, and it was a great time. Thank you to the town manager. I had been asking about a list of resiliency projects for Mystic, so that has been sent out. And then through the mayor to the town manager, because of the heat and things, do we have any cooling stations and things if residents have issues with their air conditioning?
We don't routinely open cooling stations. During the day, there's a lot of public spots that you can go to, like libraries, Thrive 55, that type of thing, and it tends to cool off some at night. Worst case scenario, you can go to the front area of the police station if you wanted to cool off at night, but generally speaking, it's not quite the same as cold, where it actually gets worse at night.
Okay, so Thrive 55 during the day and the library?
Library
Good.
and police, yeah, there's lots of places.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I walked in the 4th of July parade. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun. Thanks to Parks and Rec and everybody involved with setting that up, and all the residents who showed up and seemed to be having a really good time. Also, my family and I went out on a little hunt, and we found the Daughters of Revolution plaque to George Washington. So it's a nice little piece of history for Groton to be proud of. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Parker.
I was unable to attend the parade, but I've heard wonderful things, and thank you to Town of Groton Parks and Rec. And that's all I have to report.
All right, thank you. I'm going to keep it very short and sweet and have nothing to report and move on to approval of minutes. Councilor Parker, would you like to take that one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I make a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of June 24, 2025. I so move.
Second, Jones?
Moved by Parker, seconded by Jones. Councilor Rusk.
Just a minor correction on page 1 of the minutes. Groton Community Meals is seeking financial donations, not food donations.
Under what section?
I'm sorry, calendar and communications, 1, 2, 3rd line down, the 3rd paragraph down. Groton Community Meals is seeking financial donations, not food donations. And if that was my misstatement, my apologies.
Okay. I also have correction that was under 5A. Councilor Bordelon had left the meeting, was not noted. And then under, I believe, 5G, Councilor Bordelon returned to the meeting. So if we could add those. All right, seeing no other hands, we're going to take actually, those were the amended motions that were for the financial, and then the time of departure and arrival. I make a motion to put those as changes to the minutes.
Second.
Amended by Franco, seconded by Jones. Okay. Seeing no hands, we'll vote on the amended motion first. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
All right, the amended motion passes 7-0 to 1 with borderline abstaining. And then all as a whole, approval of minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
That passes 7-0 to 1, borderline abstaining. All right, up next, new business, 2025-643, Charles Barnum Elementary School roof replacement. This is on page 11 of our packet. Counselor Good, would you like to take that one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to recommend to the full town council to authorize $1 million for the Charles Barnum Elementary School roof replacement, with funds to come from the town's capital reserve fund.
Second.
Moved by Good, seconded by Rusk. Mr. Burt, do you want to share any?
We have a guest list.
Okay. Mr. Kilpatrick, are you going to come to the, would you like to come down to the table?
I guess, let me give just a little brief, and then Mr. Kilpatrick can give an update on the project itself. Ray Engel, the temporary business manager for the Board of Ed, whatever his official title is, reached out. As you recall, in 2023 budget, the town council had approved $1 million for the Charles Barnum roof. The intent was to seek partial reimbursement from the state Department of Administrative Services. Back from that, now that's paperwork you do up front. When the Board of Ed reached out to the state, the way we approve most of these type of CIPs, we put them on a list of our CIPs. The state requires it to be singled out as an individual project and expressly state where that money's coming from. So we did it quickly, just, the money's there, already set aside, we just need to change the wording on it.
So that was done during a budget session?
Yes.
Approving
For the
CIPs as
23
a
budget,
whole?
yes. So the money's already set aside.
Thank you. Anybody? Counselor Good?
That's one thing. How confident are you with this wording that the rest of the request is all set?
The wording was sent to the state for approval, so we're pretty confident that this wording will work.
Fantastic.
I might add that the wording that was sent the first time was wording that had been used in the past projects that we've done, but I think probably new people at the state look at it a little bit differently, so they're requiring it to state this in fact.
Understood. So it looks like it's probably too late for this year.
That's correct. It would be scheduled for next summer, as soon as school gets out next summer.
Thank you.
Counselor Merritt?
I have a question. Is that $1 million a good figure? I see that roof is many-faceted.
That's the figure that our consultants gave us, yes.
And no damage underneath that you know of?
Not that we're aware of. As you know, any remodeling project, when you rip a roof off, there could be something under there that we're unaware of, but nothing that we're aware of at this time.
Yeah.
Counselor Pacino?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I don't know who can answer this. I just don't quite understand. If the roof isn't probably going to get repaired until next summer, why are we releasing the funds now? What-
Well, we've already released the funds generally. The funds have already been set aside. They're already there. We're just changing the wording on it. We need to get this in place so we can then apply for the reimbursement in advance. And what we don't want to do is wait till last second next year. We want to get this done with, get the permissions in place and be ready to go.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, I just have a quick question. Since we had put these aside in 2023, and I recall council has asked numerous times to apply for this, how many times have we applied for this since 2023?
Well, we've only applied once, but we've talked to the state on numerous occasions. So we haven't been, in order for us to get a hearing before the committee up there, this wording has to be changed. So we haven't been to the state yet in order for them to look at the project and approve it for reimbursement.
Okay. Okay, seeing no other hands, we're going to take a vote on 2025-643, Charles Barnum Elementary School roof replacement. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 8-0. We're going to take a recess, and we're going to come out of the committee of the whole and begin the town council special meeting for this topic alone. It is 6:47. And we're calling the July 8th Town Council Special Meeting Agenda to order. We have roll call. All are present except for Councilor McBride. On to new business, 2025-643-1, Charles Barnum Elementary School roof replacement. This is on page 2 of the packet, and Councilor Jones, would you like to take that on?
Item 2025-643, Charles Barnum Elementary School roof replacement. You want just the resolve, or is the other part important?
Whichever. Whichever.
Okay. Resolve the Groton Town Council approves $1 million in funding from the town's capital reserve fund for the Charles Barnum Elementary School roof replacement project, and to refer to the item in the town's representative town meeting for approval per RTM Rule 6.5.3. So moved.
Second.
Parker. Moved by Jones, seconded by Parker. All right, I'm not seeing any hands. We'll take a vote on 2025-643-1, Charles Barnum Elementary School roof replacement. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 8-0. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Parker,
Second, Jones.
second by Rusk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 8-0. We are now coming, that's at 6:49. We are now back into our regular meeting. Committee of the Whole. We are moving on to 5B, which is 2025-519-3, landfill solar lease. This is in our packet, begins on page 12. Counselor Rusk, would you like to take that one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 2025-519, landfill solar lease. Make a motion to recommend a resolution to enter into a 20-year lease agreement and tax agreement with VCP Groton LLC to construct and operate a 5-megawatt AC 6.6 megawatt DC solar array at the Flanders Road landfill. So moved.
Second?
Moved by Russ, seconded by Bordelon. Well, good evening, you're
Good-
back.
Good evening, we're back again. We
Would
were
you-
here about a month ago, a little over a month ago. Greg Hanover, Director of Public Works. With me from Verigy is Ron Weddington and James Sturkanowitz. We also have Rob Klee, who's in the audience. If you have any questions, he might be able to answer. From Klee Associates is the town's energy consultant. So just to quickly recap for those who might be listening that hadn't heard, but we're looking, we did an RFP for solar array on the town's closed landfill. Verigy was the successful winner of that RFP. They did get a SCEF, which is a Shared Clean Energy Facilities Award from Eversource. So we are entering into an agreement with Verigy for them to install, construct, operate, and maintain a 5-megawatt solar array on the closed landfill at Flanders Road. This is a 20-year lease. The town will get an annual payment of around $228,000. This annual payment is a combination of lease fees and also taxes. There's no statutory allowances for the council to waive the personal property and leasehold taxes on this project, so we came up with a tax agreement. That's why we have these two documents before you. So there's a tax agreement as well as the lease. As I said, the lease is for a 20-year period. At the last COW on May 27th, we introduced you to Verigy and did answer some questions on the lease. Since that time, we have done the 824 referral to the town's Planning and Zoning Commission. The P&Z Commission did approve it as being consistent with the 2016 Plan of Conservation and Development. Then the council held a public hearing last week, July 1st, to solicit public input. There was no comment at that public hearing, so we are here tonight to answer any questions you might have on the lease and tax agreement. Thank you.
Great.
And that's Counselor Pacino.
How is this, thank you, Madam Mayor. How is this a win for the Groton taxpayer?
Well, we're going to get, as I said, to about $228,000 a year for a facility that's going to be on the landfill, which really cannot be used for anything else. There's no other purpose for this landfill other than putting solar on it. Is really, and you see a lot of municipalities throughout the state doing this. Some of the minor benefits of it is, if it's reducing Groton's carbon footprint by having green energy, and we also, they are going to be maintaining about 25 acres of the existing grass up there, which Public Works mows 4 or 5 times a year, and it takes a couple weeks each time we do it. So there's some savings there with manpower so we won't have to maintain the grass for 20 years. Verigy will.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the mayor to the town manager on the tax agreement part of this is new, right? We didn't have the tax agreement before.
You didn't not have the agreement, but it was covered in the last meeting. It was discussed, yeah. It's a pretty simple, straightforward agreement.
Is there anything special in this tax agreement compared to any other commercial property that we have in town?
No, it's very standard, yeah.
So it just goes into our general fund like every
Yes.
other tax does? Okay.
I also just wanted to mention that this idea has been looked at for probably over 20 years at this site. It's come up now and again, so it's quite the accomplishment to finally be at this stage.
Yes.
Mr. Hanover, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Once this is signed, when do you stop breaking ground to building your solar array?
The projection would be as early as next spring. We're currently going through the permitting processes with Connecticut Deep for stormwater and for landfill closure, and we are on the verge this week of submitting to the Connecticut Siting Council. And that review time basically puts us targeting discretionary permitting sometime in the fall, which would also coincide with the final interconnection agreement being issued by Eversource at the conclusion of the transmission study. So that wraps us up where, in theory, we have everything done and permitted by the end of the year, and then the ability to break ground come next spring.
And then when do you think it'll be online?
The target date is, I believe, by the end of 2026.
Okay, so it's like a year. Okay, all right.
Year and a half from now, say conservatively.
Mr. Hammond, do you need to do anything special to I know that the landfill has its own gate system and all that. Is there anything that the town needs to do to be able to give these guys access?
No, they'll have access, as part of the lease agreement, that they have access to, through the transfer station to the landfill.
Okay, so
Yes,
just
sir.
standard, they'll go in the same
Yep.
entrance?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. I'm a big supporter of anything that's got a green initiative that's, obviously on land that we once thought was great for dumping all those contaminants in and now resurrecting something that's an initiative. So I think that's a good way to show. I'm very familiar, my father-in-law lives in Montville, so I've seen that initiative out there. and some surrounding towns. My question, though, in this agreement, when I was looking, some towns have made some agreements where they're reinvesting some of that money back into green initiatives in the town, let it be affordable housing or solar initiatives in our community. So I guess through the mayor, through the town manager, is there anything in here, I just want to make sure I couldn't find anything, where we're taking, how do I say this? I guess it's like, yeah, what are we gaining, right? Well, we're putting on solar panels, we're giving back, right, to the grid that we took from, right? That's how I see it, we're giving back to the earth. But it's also nice to say, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, now you built a new building and now you're getting money in for that. You built another building, we're getting money for that. Where do we plan to invest this money that we're receiving? And is there anything in here where we're planning to take 20,000 of it, right? Doesn't seem like a lot, really, when we weren't expecting this money initially, we weren't getting it. And using that to help maybe people to afford homes, or like, is there any other ways? We talk about cooling shelters, centers. We need places. People can't afford the AC bill. They're cutting their ACs off. So is there any initiative in this contract where we're reinvesting that money in our community?
First of all, you wouldn't put that in a contract with an outside entity. That'd be an internal decision of the town council. That'd be part of a motion. We have passed this and authorize or require X amount of money to go to this.
Okay.
So that would be just part of a motion of the council.
So a motion to the council, so it'd have to get a couple votes. All right, I will send that forward then. Again, thank you, and hopefully our town will take some of that money we weren't expecting and turn it into something that's productive for other folks in our community that aren't able to get to the green initiatives. And you know, as climate's warming and sea levels are rising, more of this stuff's important. And it's indicative that not only do we gain these wins, but how we reinvest that money, right? It's like you get a raise at your job. It's not just the money, it can fold in, or you can do something good with it. So I hope, but I'm excited, and I hope this is beneficial for our town. At any point, will this number be reassessed? So this is a set number for 20 years. I just want to ask that.
Go ahead.
I would just say, the reason it's a set number is the state has a set number that they authorize the utilities to pay for the electricity that is provided to the utility. So that number does not change. So it's set from here for 20 years.
Okay. And I asked my other questions that obviously are really more like high-level important questions, which was in the event that this company went bankrupt or pulled out, and I was told that those protections, I'm not an attorney, it seems that what we have in here in this contract will suffice for that, from my understanding. So those are just my thoughts, and so I'm hoping this stays, and and maybe there's other opportunities elsewhere in the community for this. So thank you for your time, and excited to see where it goes.
Councillor Rusk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say I'm all for this. I think it's a great use of our landfill. And I want to say thank you for choosing Groton, first of all. You could have chosen anywhere in the area, and you chose us. The fact that we are going to be bringing in $228,000 annually helps offset the tax base, which is always important to me, so that we can reduce taxes hopefully in other areas for other people. So thank you. This is a great green initiative in an area that can't do anything else. So I just want to say thank you.
And we would say thank you. Groton's been a marvelous partner to work with so far, and we anticipate 20 years of a great relationship.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Merritt.
I know it's probably a little bit late in the game, but are we bound to Eversource, to deal with Eversource,
Bound in what way, sir?
instead of Groton Utilities?
Yes, because the generation is being contributed directly to the Eversource managed grid, since that is what is serving the landfill. And the SCEF contract, the shared clean energy facility contract, guarantees that we'll be selling that energy to them at a set rate. And that program, I just wanted to mention, does allow low income and disadvantaged to subscribe via Eversource to take advantage of that generation.
Yeah, the landfill is in the Eversource service area.
Well, I suppose that's the way it is. I'm not very happy with them, and I'll say it out loud. I'll say it publicly. But so be it.
May I just, I'm sorry, point of clarification.
Your question?
Can you just repeat what you said regarding that was being used for people to offset their energy costs?
Yeah, that's correct. So when Greg mentioned that is part of a SCEF award, the Shared Clean Energy Facility Program, that means that the energy generated, Eversource compensates us for that at a set rate, but then that energy is put into the Shared Clean Energy Fund and allows low income and disadvantaged to subscribe, so people that would not normally be able to construct solar on the roof can take advantage of set rates, I believe typically lower than the standard generation rate. So that's why it's sort of known as community solar in essence as well.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Bordelon?
Are those funds set aside separately town by town? So like, for example, I guess my question would be, say I was a town who didn't have the solars, that I'm not contributing to it, could folks from that community still apply, or is it only community specific to the folks that are, towns are participating in the program?
That would be a question for Eversource because they manage the program. Once we generate the energy and we're compensated for it, they take those kilowatt hours and they are the ones that are setting up subscribers. So I don't want to misspeak on who has an opportunity to subscribe to that program and who does not. But we certainly can provide examples of our facility up in Enfield that is part of that program. And I know the town was able to subscribe, and there were, again, residential, and there were businesses as well that were able to subscribe to the program and take advantage of those lower rates.
Okay.
But
That'd
that
be
is
great,
managed by
if you get
Eversource.
information as a follow-up, I guess, through the mayor to the town manager. If you could, provide us with any of the details on that to make sure that what the parameters are for that, it would be helpful.
Greg, can you look at it?
That would be, if you could get it back to the council, just to make sure the community's aware, and just so we're aware, and how that process looks.
Yes, and I can give you an example that from our project in Enfield, I think we did put people in touch with Eversource and help that town as well, and that was why the town did take advantage of subscriptions to that.
Right. All right, well, it sounds good. I think it's a great opportunity, and I think more people should be aware of it. And it would be great to have that information in our hands. Thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing any other hands, so I'm going to take my opportunity to say thank you. I think this is a huge win for Groton. It's a huge win for this council. As Mr. Burt had said, this is something that's probably been in the works for 20 years, and I can remember getting on the council and having even previous people talking about this is something that they wanted to do with the landfill, and there were so many obstacles in the way, and I don't know what's happened in the past 8 years that have helped us remove those obstacles and be able to do this now, but I am very grateful for it, and I thank you, and I think our community thanks you, and to have a 20-year lease agreement and tax agreement where we will be bringing in approximately $4.5 million over the 20 years is huge. It's huge for our community, so it's a win for everybody, and it's huge. So thank you all. So with that, we'll take a vote on 2025-519-3 landfill solar lease. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 8-0 to 0 unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next, we have 2025-646 District 4 Park Update. And this is in our packet on page 48. There is no recommendation or action on this one. It's going to be an update, and I can see Mr. Berry and Mr. Reiner making their way down. Good evening. You have a presentation for us this evening.
Yes, I'll try to keep it short. Mark Berry, Director of Parks and Recreation. Joining me is John Reiner, Director of Planning. As you mentioned, this is just a presentation, just to update the council on what the town and the Parks and Recreation Department is trying to do in District 4, which, as you're all aware, there's been a identified lack of recreational facilities in District 4, and we're taking a number of initiatives to try to address those shortcomings. Specifically, where the town last year, after a number of years of being in court, there was a transfer of ownership of a property on North Gunjewap Road, which is Maple Glen. That's a 20-acre parcel. That parcel, the town surveyor has been marking that. We needed to have him do that ahead of time because we didn't want to put trails on that actually were not on our property. So he has surveyed it, he's going out to mark it, and then we're going to put placards on the boundary so that we know exactly where our property is. There are some existing trails on there. We will look to, we'll analyze those trails to see if those are in the proper location and look to develop, given the conditions of that property, look to put trails in a safe location. We also, John Burt and I have also had an initial discussion with the Board of Ed, looking at the Mary Morrison property. Our proposal to them, or our idea, was to look at making a portion of that property into a public park. As you all know, currently Mary Morrison is, most of the school portion is closed. There are a couple of fields and a couple of playgrounds on that property, and we're looking to strike some kind of a formal agreement with the Board of Ed towards the future use of that property as a public park. John and I have also initiated discussions with the management of Balfour Beatty. Balfour Beatty owns quite a bit of, or I'm sorry, manages quite a bit of property up in that area. And we have reached out to them to explore the idea of utilizing some of their recreational amenities and having those available to the public. We're also, and this is more in line with what John Reiner is working on, and I'm sure you're all aware that Pleasant Valley School is, we're looking at a developer to build that property out, and part of the initial proposal plan includes a park there and also some open space. Those details are to be worked out. And the other item that we're working on is a few months ago, you approved a bike and pedestrian master plan. That master plan identified some sidewalk gaps up in District 4. That also noted some ease of implementation recommendations and also developed a phasing plan. So the improving connectivity in that area is something that the town is aware of and has a plan for, and it's a matter of getting that kind of into the schedule of proposed work. And that's something that would be handled through Public Works. And Public Works is well aware of and was involved in this development of the Parks and Recreation, of the Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. And so they're aware of the work that needs to be addressed up in that area. So that's where we are now.
And two other quick things to add to that. Last week, and we've heard over the past couple of weeks about progress at Triton Square, the former Sealy School, and there are some concerns that things weren't being done, so that is still an active construction project. The town is part of the sale of that property. We are getting park and trail access. There'll be public access out there. There'll be dedicated public spaces, public parking spaces that will be signed, and there'll be a public access easement recorded in the land records that's tied to the land. There'll be, again, signage out there. And there'll also be an extension of the multi-use path going down Walker Hill Road, connecting that down towards Route 12 and Pleasant Valley South. Those items we haven't allowed those to be open to the public yet because of safety concerns. It's still an active construction project. We don't want people walking out there with bulldozers and construction equipment. So as that project is wrapping up over the course of the next few months, those will then be done, recorded. Those are requirements. Those are things that we have bonds in place to make sure that they happen. The developers followed up on all of their promises of what they've been doing out there. So, you know, that is something that'll be happening and open in the very near future. And then lastly, over the past couple of years, we have also been talking with property owners in that area of town about additional purchase options of some property for more hiking trails, kind of some passive recreation uses up there, because that was one of the items that was identified as a need in that District 4, was having accessibility to some more hiking trails. So those conversations are always slow going, and if we have some updates in the coming months, you know, obviously we'll let the council know.
And there was one other project that we're working on, which actually the council supported through this last budget cycle, and that's renovations to Windward Passage, which is up in District 4. And those renovations are going to include updates to playground equipment, establishing an accessible route, trying to create a dedicated handicap on-road parking spot, and also some additional signage. Now, that is one of the projects that's on hold until, is it the end of December or January at this point? So this would, the Windward Passage project would be something that would, if the funding becomes available, we would start, the planning process would, and permitting process would start ahead of time, but that would be something that would probably take place next spring.
Mr. Burt?
Just to add on, if you look at a study, it also mentions other considerations, areas of consideration. Charles Barnum School, you know, potential of a pocket park and trails, but right next to that is Gunjiwant, the state's Gunjiwant property. It's mentioned in here potential to add a pocket park and trails. Mr. Barry and I have a meeting tomorrow with DEEP, with the representative from DEEP, to talk further about Gunjiwant. Of course, the east side is got the Native American, a lot of Native American archaeological special areas, but on the west side is where the YMCA camp used to be, right next to where the Charles Barnum is. So that's one thing I'm going to talk to DEEP about. Is there any way to get access to that west side of the property?
And I don't believe Belfor Beatty was really discussed.
It was mentioned briefly, but yeah, Mr. Barry and I, we met with VP from Balfour Beatty, talked about some options, what they might want to see out of a potential trade. They're open to working out an arrangement. Of course, it comes ultimately down to the Navy to approve anything as Navy property, and they're just managing it. Balfour Beatty's managing it for the Navy, though the Navy right now is actively seeking different agreements with local communities to enhance cooperation between the two. But we looked at all of the parks, playgrounds of Balfour Beatty on the west side of 12. We spent a good chunk of time looking at each of them. There was three parks that we kind of were interested in. I've tentatively reached out back to the VP to see what his initial thoughts were on those three, to see if he thought those might be viable, so I'm waiting to hear back.
Thank you for the detailed explanation. Are you all set with your presentation?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, I thought you were going to go through the pictures and everything. So. We have pictures in our packet,
Yeah.
maps and. Okay, we'll open it up for discussion. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Barry, Mr. Reiner. Can you talk a little bit about the Maple Glen property? Because that's something that's brand new. And what kind of property is it? Is it wooded fields?
Yes, it's primarily wooded. It's rather unique in that there's cliffs on one side of the property, and there's a wet area in the middle. As I said, there are existing trails there, and we would look to either enhance the existing trails or reroute trails, depending on what's the most appropriate location. It would likely be on-street parking on North Gungy Road, similar to other open spaces that we have. And I don't know, I don't want to put John on the spot, but there's a history of that particular property that was in court for quite a while. And I don't know the details, but I think it was last fall that it finally was turned over to the town.
So is it sort of like a Pequot Woods?
Yeah, but it's a much smaller. It's only
Smaller.
20 acres.
And Nautilus Overlook, I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, so that is adjacent to the Nautilus. It's a parking lot with benches that look down onto the water. So it's not really,
More like a seating
it-
area,
yeah,
picnic
it's,
area. that-
yeah, it's not really a place for kids to play.
Okay.
It is a great view of the new dock we just built there, though.
Yes.
This is for a sunset picnic. It's a good,
Yes.
might be a good
Yes.
place to go.
Yes.
All right, I will check that out. Talk a little bit about, I'm looking at the map here, the Woods Walk, what is that? property
Yeah,
about?
so that's a combination of open space and a pocket or a mini park. There is, that playground is designed for children 2 to 5. It's really small. It is fenced in, and it's right in a neighborhood up off, and I forget the name of the road.
Ohio, close to Ohio.
And there's also adjoining open space, and I don't believe there's any trails in there now.
Okay. And then Wynwood Passage is, I know it looks like it's a pretty small,
It is. It's located between two houses,
we have it over here.
and it's downhill from the street. I mean, you could drive by it and not even realize that there was a park there.
And are all of these currently open? I mean,
Open and,
that you could walk on them, and you could drive over to them and walk around on them?
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Including
Yep.
the Maple Glen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not marked yet, so that's something that we've got to work towards, is marking it, so that people know that because there's a adjoining or abutting private property, so we need to,
Make a
that's why
clear
we're
line
going
of
through the
delineation.
process of
Okay.
flagging it and then putting up the placards, just so that people understand. Because there are, like I said before, there are some existing trails that likely go off the property, and we're going to have to try to address those.
Okay. And that's to be for next year or this year, or when do you anticipate that?
Yeah, trail development, that would likely be this fall or winter. That's usually the time of the year when we have the capacity to try to do that kind of work. This time of year, we're just trying to keep
It's
the grass
also-
from
It's the easiest time of year. to
growing
build
up
trail.
over our heads, yeah.
Yeah, you build them in the wintertime.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's typically what we do, is we do trail maintenance and any type of trail building in the wintertime.
Okay. And do we have on our town website or Go Groton or someplace like that, a nice listing of all of these parks?
Yes, all of these parks are identified on the town webpage.
Town website. So if
Yes.
anybody's interested in learning more about it, you can go
Yes.
to the town website.
Yes.
And look them up.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Thank you, and thank you for pursuing our desire to get more parks in District 4, which has been a goal of this council to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like we're moving nicely in that direction. So thank you for.
Certainly trying. Yeah.
No, it's obvious that you're making a good effort, and results are starting to come. So thank you for doing that. So, okay.
Mr. Burr?
Just two quick things. One, I just want to point out to those of the public that the agenda pack does have a map showing where these different locations we're talking about are, in case they want to refer to that. It is on our website. And then, forgive me if I missed it, but I want to make sure we mentioned that the Board of Ed was gracious enough to invite us to attend the Board of Ed meeting next week to talk about Mary Morrison, so that'll be next Monday.
All right, that's wonderful. Counselor Rusk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since this map is up, can we kind of go through this a little bit? What is the green area with like
Under
Nautilus?
number 3?
I'm sorry?
Which one, this one right here?
No, it's like, it's not a number. It just encompasses 6, 5, 1, and
That's
7.
Oh, that illustrates a quarter-mile buffer around existing public spaces.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
Sure. It identifies a quarter-mile buffer around existing public spaces.
If you look at, like, let's say number 1 here, you could tell there's
Okay.
a circular, that's a quarter mile, they all blend together.
Thank you. Now I'm understanding. I was wondering. So Woods Park, Woods Walk, I've actually been up there. Is there any way to expand that? Make that any bigger? Do we own any more property in that area?
There is some open space adjoining the playground. We could certainly look at that, expanding that to make that a larger, you're suggesting a larger play space?
Is it possible? It's a tiny park.
It is, I would describe it as like a pocket park, essentially to serve that neighborhood.
It's not a big neighborhood.
What's that?
It's not a big neighborhood. I
No,
mean,
no,
and-
I
And I
know.
think a lot of people don't even realize it's up there.
Right.
I stumbled upon it one day. And
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly look into expanding that.
And then the new one, the Maple Glen, is that, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where this actually is. Is that the road that is like directly across from the Navy Federal that's over there? Like,
No.
it-
Which
how-
number are you
North,
speaking about?
North
Number
Gunjewamp
7.
Road is, there was a new development that went in 4 or 5 years ago. Multi-family housing, 3 or 4 stories. I don't know the name of that development.
Okay, I'll have to go take a look at it. I love the, oh,
Mr. Bird's bringing it up.
thank you. Sorry, I used to live in that neighborhood, but don't get over there that often.
It's not pulling as much detail as I would like.
And I'm looking for Charles Barnum on the map.
I believe it's a little more to the left.
That's a sub-base.
I think you're too far north.
It's to the left of that lake. So just, you're right in there.
Dr. John, do you know where it's, I know it's close. I know it's close to the
That's
base
Pleasant
because I actually
Valley.
hiked it when we first did it and I heard the morning revelry when I was there.
Yeah, that's the Crystal Lake Road, just south of that is the, I think that's the development he's speaking about, so.
Can we find Charles Barnum?
Charles Barnum is south of where
It's-
you are right now.
It's actually to the right there, Briar Hill Road.
That's south.
You see
Yeah,
that clearing,
that's
just
right
the
there.
the clearing.
Is that right
below
over the
is
word?
Charles Barnum.
Right over the word hill on Briar Hill Road?
I think it's further,
At the
just a little
bottom
further
right-hand
south.
corner of the screen. Oh, now it's not. How many directions at one time can we take?
Are you sure it's North Gunjawam? I thought it was North Pleasant
Oh,
Valley. I thought it was on North Pleasant Valley.
Oh, actually, it could be, right. Yeah.
Because I was right across from the base when I was hiking it.
Okay, so that makes a little more sense. I didn't know that there was a North Gunjawam. That's why I was,
There is a North Gunjawam, but
There
it's not,
is.
yeah, it's off North Pleasant Valley.
North
Okay.
Pleasant. I got my northers wrong.
okay, that's okay. Then at least I know where it is. North Pleasant Valley is not a good road to park on, but okay, at least we know where it is. Thank you for that. The purple that's in the map, can you explain what that, is that Groton Utilities? Is that the reservoir? All the purple?
So it's municipal open space without recreation amenities, so it could be town, city, or,
GLP.
yeah.
All right, yeah.
So some of it could be reservoir, or it just could be other properties that don't necessarily have access.
Okay. I want to find a solution in here, and I want to say thank you for trying. I know this is, it's densely populated. It's going to be hard to find a space. Cobb Family Farm, I don't know if that's even a solution, but I'm going to throw it out there. What's the thought of opening some space in the front for families? I know it's mainly used for dogs. It's mainly used for hiking. What is,
Oh, the Cott Family Park. There is a Cott Board of Overseers.
okay.
We would have to work with them to look at opportunities to, you're suggesting putting in a playground or
I'm
something?
just throwing out ideas at this moment. I know, I mean,
Okay,
there is open space there, so
Yes.
maybe.
yeah. And there's actually, adjacent to 184 is an events field, which we keep mowed in order to keep it from filling in and becoming forest like the rest of that property. So there is, there's certainly potential there to change or diversify the recreational amenities, because, right now, that is currently used for hiking, and that's where the dog park is located.
If there's open space, even if it's not a playground, but just open space that's fenced in for people to run around and utilize a big
Yeah.
open space.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, there is that, the events field, which is in the front. And, well, that's on a state road. I mean, we'd have to look at trying to figure out parking. Otherwise, they could use, we would probably have to look at adding additional parking if we wanted to diversify recreational opportunities in there, because that park is heavily used, and I think we would quickly be at a point where if we didn't expand parking, we would run out of parking spaces.
And Mr. Burt, through the mayor, one of the things that I've heard about Mary Morrison is the concern about lack of sidewalks. I know there's not sidewalks to the east on, oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of the road.
Tollgate?
Tollgate, thank you.
Right.
I believe there is going up until then, but once you get past Mary Morrison, there aren't sidewalks. Is that something that we're willing to invest in?
Certainly, it's something we could look at too, and there's sidewalks adjoining the actual potential park space right there that lead into the neighborhoods by there. So there is already a lot of access, but certainly it could be enhanced to the east.
Thank you.
And just to point out, this is the Maple Glen property. There's the solar field, the solar panel farm there. So that's the 20.5 acres. You see next to Catalpa there. I went in and when we first got it and hiked all the way through it.
Counselor Borderline.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I lived in the District 4 for many years as a military family, even though we were local. We were active duty, and so, but we had parks that were provided for Balfour Beatty in housing. Some were adequate, some really weren't, so we also, it's not just having them there, kids get bored, you gotta kind of venture out a little bit too, so. But the other concern was, there's not a lot, I mean, with Route 12 being a major thoroughway, it's not evenly distributed, so when looking at the map of District 4, we need to also consider that Route 12 as a divider, because what people want is to be able to get up, put their shoes on, and walk to a walkable area, and not have to do much effort, or children that are older could travel alone. So that is a concern. A whole other thing as well, now I live in, well, it was District 3, then it went to 2, anyway, it switched a couple times, I guess I'm District 2 now. Is there any collaboration with the city? Because the city side is struggling for prominent parks and such as well. So that's my first question when looking at all this.
Collaborating in what way?
Like seeking proper open space in those areas as well, other districts.
No, so you're saying that there's a lack of adequate open space in the city?
Correct.
Okay.
That's been defined by many of the people that come through, looking at like the green bands and all that stuff in that presentation we had.
I will say the city has not expressed that as a concern to the town proper. I speak with the mayor there almost daily, and
Yeah.
he's not brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, just because the mayor doesn't bring it up, no offense, it doesn't mean it's not a problem, but it's overwhelmingly. So anyway, I'll put something in notes, but I do think that to advocate across the board. But definitely, I can speak from living in District 4 that it's a definitely concern. I would say 4, 3, and 2 struggle overwhelmingly. We have the most industrial side of the town. We produce the most difficult air quality. It's the warmest side of the town, yet it's the most dense income driver for this town. We always say, yay, EB, Pfizer, we're happy to have all these places, but they come at a cost on that side of town. And we struggle overwhelmingly for parks and proper open space that's accessible to everybody. So yes, as we look at District 4, I would love if there was some type of reach out. If the mayor chose not to, that's their choice. But I do think if we represent the whole town in some capacity, that we really need to be looking at it all. But I am concerned that when we're looking at this, a lot of the places identified are on one side of Route 12 and not the other, which is a major concern. I feel personally Pleasant Valley could have had a piece of land pulled off. You wouldn't need much, not even an acre. And we could have put a park there proper that is ours, fenced in. It's a known commodity. It's been there forever. So for me, it's not just these places, it's where they're located geographically. We just can't say, here's District 4, let's put some parks. It's very important with that divide. As I'm running out of time, I'll take my second turn after. But across the board, we need to be looking at open space options, and I will end there.
Councilor Good.
Hi, through the mayor, thank you. I appreciate this. You know, it really shows, there's two counselors here who represent District 4 currently, and, we've been having a lot of discussions about that, so I really appreciate the research and the expansion that you guys are working on. I just wanted to ask about Farquhar Park. Did I say that right?
Farquhar?
Now, I know there's fields and tennis courts, and there's a wooded area behind the park, kind of east or westward behind the park. I'm not sure what the status, if that's part of it, or if it's not.
Yes, there's some open space adjoining Farquhar Park that is currently undeveloped.
Okay.
And then there's also a substantial amount of privately owned land around that as well.
I just didn't know where the line was. So I appreciate that, to know that there is some undeveloped land back there too, which is also part of District 4, so thank you. That's it. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Councilor Merritt.
I'd like to reference for a minute with remarks on Gunjewamp Road, the former Girl Scout camp. I believe that was deeded back to the state
Yes, it was.
Yeah, because the Girl Scouts couldn't maintain it, and that was in the deed. I just hope that there won't be any disturbance of the archaeology finds, the antiques.
I'm sure Deep would not allow that. My understanding is that I've done the tour a couple times of that property that Pequot Dennison provides. I think most of those sites are on the east side of Latham Lake, whereas the Girl Scouts are on the west side, adjacent to the elementary school there. So that's what we'll find out. Part of our discussion tomorrow will be find out, is that area in fact free of some of these archaeological sites?
I was, to say the least, I was employed by Deep at the time that was transferred, and it was given to the district that I worked in. However, we were told that Patchogue, which has a crew for that, would come down and define the trails and do the work. And there hasn't been much action on that yet. I don't know if they're forming a plan or what.
We had a little bit of email traffic with Deep. If you look on Deep's website, there was reference years ago to a potential plan for that site. Never came to fruition. The actual person now in charge of that at Deep had never even heard of that. So that was a number of years ago. So I think they're getting up to speed too. I think it's an overlooked piece of property.
Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. Again, going back to my memory of District 4, I lived on the other side. I lived in multiple spots because they were renovating during the time I was there, so we got moved a lot in military housing. But I remember being back by Locust Circle to the back of Mary Morrison and then living on the left side of Mary Morrison and accessing those trails, which are great. And there has potential there. Again, it's being put in a place where military folks, which is a great enhancement, I think, as a military family, give them everything possible. But we already defined that they have parks, and so it's putting it in an already high-dense area, is my concern. Secondly, when we're looking at schools and things, we need to consider, I live right by Catherine Kolnaski. I go walking every day on my lunch break. I walk in the evening I never go back there because it's so far down. I don't know if that's maybe a half a mile. I actually should time it in my car. It's so deep back there. You wouldn't even know I was back there, and I don't know who's back there. So it's not like a lot of people won't use it after hours because they don't feel safe if they're going to go alone. Most times it's a mom and a kid or a dad and a kid that go back there. That's unless you're going with other people. So we have to look at that. We also have to keep in mind that during school hours, these parks that we're identifying that are schools, you can't be on public property. So I remember being a stay-at-home mom for many years, and all the parks that were around other than military housing before we had the Pequannock Plains Park, because that wasn't there when I was raising my kids, they weren't accessible. And then you had to be careful because there was their after-school activities, so you got to be careful. People can't just walk on property. So Mary Morrison, for me, as we grow and develop our town, as we keep saying we need housing. I've heard that time and time again on the RTM, since I've been on here, time. I think we need affordable housing, but people are saying we need housing. Fine, housing. Here we are. We will grow our list for needing more room for school children, and our middle school is already maxed out. Why do I bring this up? Originally, when I was on the council, Mary Morrison was considered going to be put on mothballs, saved for overflow. So I am concerned about building any structures there before knowing, as we grow, all these other houses coming on the pipeline. And again, if something was there, and if it's too close to the school grounds for safety reasons, families could not access that during school hours. So that is a concern because there's a lot of people who have nannies and moms that are single or dads that need parks to go to, not just after 5 p.m., but we need day parks that we can go to during the day while everyone else is working. These are the children that are not school age, or maybe school's out, or if there's a program. Again, just kind of thinking of that. And I think there's a lot of land back there. If anyone remembers Dolphin Sports, Dolphin used to have their own football league for the Navy, their own youth football league back in the day. And they used to play back there on that big field. But again, it's putting it too far back, and it's on an area that already has parks on that side of town in military housing. So we really need to look at the whole thing. I think there should be more of a study done. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burr?
I just want to mention Catherine Kolnaski. There's the dedicated parking space up front. That is accessible at all times to park there and use the trails. It's not limited by school hours.
Point of clarification?
Your question?
I'm just sorry, I didn't hear what the town manager said, sorry.
We have dedicated parking up front along the street there that we acquired from EV for permanent parking. That is accessible at all times. It's not restricted during school hours because school children aren't using those trails along there. So you can use that at any time.
Oh, yeah, that's
you.
not what I was referring
you.
to, talking about the school itself.
Counselor Rusk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a clarification question to start. You talked about Triton, is it Triton Square? Am I saying that correctly? There was a question about whether or not there was going to be a park outside of the fence. Is that going to happen?
Outside of the fence?
So, like, if Triton Square is in the back, there was going to be a public park towards the front.
Sorry, yeah, the public park is going to be more towards the back of the property.
Like towards the highway?
More towards the highway, and it's on the backside, I mean, where the building is in the park, so it's not in the front of the site. So it's,
Near the trails?
I'm trying to get it's near the trails more.
So how are people going to know it's there?
So we're going to get some signage out there as well.
The town will put signage out?
We're going to
Or
ask the
Triton?
developer to put some signage out identifying that, public access to that park there.
Okay. And then just a couple more questions on your map. The public access open space in orange, can you explain that? There's one by Mary Morrison, and then there's one south of 184. I'm just kind of curious on what that space is used for and how big that space is. One looks like trails. It's like a peachy color, peachy pink.
It's south of 184.
Oh, maybe that there.
Right here, just,
There's one south of 184, looks
That would be,
maybe by the
that's,
condos?
That's the Avalonia piece of property, it's south of,
Antonino?
yeah, Antonino
that's
parcel.
the Antonino parcel. That's managed by
Avalonia.
Avalonia.
Okay, and the one by Mary Morrison, is that Avalonia as well? Didn't even know that was open space.
It could be.
Okay.
Well,
Do
the-
this to open it up.
Yeah,
I'll just go take a drive-by and try to figure out what it is.
yeah, it does say local land and open space. Yeah, it's probably the Groton Open Space or GOSA.
there's
I mean,
actually two Antonino properties. There's the small one and the large. They're both
Oh,
Antonino
okay.
properties.
Okay,
So they are both, I would imagine. Yes, both are Avalonia.
Okay. So I also lived in District 4 for many years when we were a military family, and utilized a lot of the parks there. I know that currently, military housing doesn't pay any taxes. So can we use that as a bit of a push to have access to some of their properties, to some of their parks?
Mr. Bird's negotiating with that.
Thank you. I don't mean to
Yeah.
There are lovely parks there. Some of them need to be renovated because they're the same from when my kids were little and we played there. But there are lovely parks there, and it would be nice to be able to have access to them. So, thank you. I appreciate the negotiations.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to take my turn at this. Can you put the map back up? Also, I'm going to continue speaking, but I'd like to see page 51 of our packet when you have a moment. I would just like to remind everybody that's here is Pleasant Valley Development. It was in the RFP to have a park requirement. There was a requirement in the RFP. That was not a would-like, that was a requirement. The pocket parks, I'm a big proponent for pocket parks. I live in Judson Avenue, off of Judson Avenue, near the SB Butler School. And on Judson Avenue, there's a small pocket park. It is very small, but I will tell you, kids go there and play all the time. And I think they're wonderful, and if we could have more of those throughout the community, I think that would be wonderful. And even stating that, I mean, I think ours, to keep it low maintenance on Judson Avenue, is full of mulch, so nobody has to maintain it. And then, years ago, I was just speaking with Mr. Burt about Grove Avenue. There were 2 properties on Grove Avenue that were for sale at the time, and I had inquired, how do we acquire these properties and potentially put in a small park there? Because combined, it would have been about a half acre. It would have been a small park, but it would have been a lot for maybe that area to have a neighborhood park. The problem is the process to have planning go and make offers and have it come through this council and all the things that have to play out, and we've seen it in other properties, it takes a long time. So this council, at some point, could pass some kind of resolution giving appropriate authority to them to make an offer with a contingency. There are certain ways that this council could make it happen. It just would have to come through the council and be discussed, and with an offer with a contingency, and then come back to the council for approval. And on this map, on the page prior to that, Mr. Burt, you can obviously see in the southeast quadrant, it is very green. There is so much green in that area, and even going a little bit north compared to, and I'm not talking about the city because that is not in our purview. They have their own government and they deal with themselves. But when you talk about the northwest quadrant, it needs some help. But you have to also consider there is subbase there as well as Navy housing. So, but it has been on my radar for quite some time. And years ago, I put in a referral for this, and Parks and Rec committee to find places to actually spell out exactly where you think parks should go in that area. You've come back with reports, and I appreciate those, but that is something that we have to literally say, where do we want them? Can you go to the next page? I'd like to take my second time. And this basically is the quadrant, the northwest quadrant. And if you're looking to have a bigger place with a bigger playground and a gathering place for people in that area, I do see that Mary Morrison is in the centrally located area. I would hope that the Board of Ed will really consider that. It's not about, oh, Pleasant Valley is over in that neighborhood. Mary Morrison is literally in the center of that quadrant. And it's very similar to when we talk about Quantic Plains being in the center of Groton. And that's why we have Sutton Park there, and we have the library, and we have the senior center, because it is centrally located for everybody, and the travel distances be similar to, from all areas of town having to get there. But the Mary Morrison is basically in the center of that. So I hope that the Board of Ed will work with us on that. And on the other side of Route 12, I honestly hope we could put in more pocket parks. And I'm looking forward to Triton Square opening theirs. And if we could put in more pocket parks, it would be wonderful. Pocket parks are wonderful in all neighborhoods. I've witnessed it in my own neighborhood, and I see them in others. Even if, and as well as if you could put a basketball court in, or some other little amenities besides just playgrounds. And I would say that this council has made a goal, and it was a goal that we discussed as parks in D4. So when I've heard some people that came to the council and discussed parks and their requests for them in that area, we've heard you. We've heard you for years. And as I say many times, government is very slow. It is a very slow process because they have to do, I guess they go out and research and they write reports and they come back and tell us sometimes what we already know. But you have to have it in writing. You have to have somebody check it out and make sure that what we're talking about is actually true, I guess. But I'm a huge proponent for parks in that area. And the more you can find some pocket parks would be wonderful. And even if they're similar to what's on Judson Avenue, would be nice. So thank you very much. Thank you for all the work that you have done. Mr. Burt, thank you, because I know you've put in a lot of time on this. And all of you as well, Mr. Berry and Mr. Reiner. I appreciate all the work you've put in.
I have a point of information.
Your question.
And if you don't have the answer to now, is there an ordinance or a zoning regulation, or could there be a zoning regulation when a new housing development or single-family home development neighborhoods are built, that these pocket parks can be part of the requirement? Do we have that currently?
We do have requirements like that currently.
So every time a neighborhood's developed, a park has to go in a small,
So there's certain open space requirements. It depends on the size of the development. The problem is, in the last 20 years, I think our largest subdivision has been a 7-lot subdivision. So we're not seeing single-family housing developments. Most of the single-family housing developments that we've seen proposed historically were all happening on the east side of town. A lot of those didn't end up getting built, and now those are open space parcels. There's not a ton of land available on the western side of town for single-family development. Most of the undeveloped land on the western side of town, as you start getting away from the roads, is very steep, ledgy, rocky, cliffs, wetlands. There's a reason it hasn't been developed for this point in time. So I don't see that unfortunately solving our problems in the future on the western side of town.
so I just, Mike,
Thank
just want
you.
to clarify what I heard. So we do have a thing to require parks or
During
just open space?
single-family housing, there isn't a requirement
There
for
isn't?
open space. There is a requirement for open space on single-family housing, he said.
But not a park per se?
No, it's open space.
Open space is different
So
from
it
park.
it all depends on the scale of the development, and the larger the development, kind of the more we can get out of it.
So, okay.
But again, we're not seeing development of that scale.
Thank you. When do you expect, by any chance, the Triton Square, I'm sorry, I had 30 seconds left. I know I'm resuming my time. I apologize. Do you know when Triton Square, the trails and the park may be open to the public? Is there an anticipation of time?
I think sometime this fall,
This fall?
yeah.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Because I know it's hard when you lose a school in your neighborhood,
Hmm.
and it would be nice to have something in there for people. So, thank you. All right. Thank you for the presentation. All righty, we are going to be moving on. We have had a request for recess, so sure, we'll take, it's 7:53, we're going to take a 10-minute recess.
What format is this?
Oh, is that Adobe? What is?
Is it, it looked weird. See if it,
Okay,
see if
we're
you
back
get to
from
do anything.
recess at
I don't know if
8:08
it's gonna work.
PM.
Yeah,
We
it's
have a little
Adobe.
technical
Just see if the
difficulties.
clicker, will- I'm not sure clicker will work on that.
Yep, yes, it does.
Oh, you did.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. So up next on our agenda is 2025-521-4, selection of project concept development team for the former Pleasant Valley School property. This is in our packet on page 61. Up next is Counselor Pacino.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 2025-521, selection of project concept development team for the former PV school property. Motion to recommend a resolution to appoint Spinnaker Real Estate Partners as the preferred project concept and development team for the former Pleasant Valley School. Move into the next phase of the town's disposition process to finalize terms and legal agreements for the sale of the property and forward the recommendation to the RTM for review. I so
Second.
move.
Moved by Pacino, seconded by Good. So I just want to explain that in the process, this section here, what we're doing tonight is, we have the motion on the floor, we've heard public comment, we've had 2 public hearings, and so you've taken what you've heard from our community, and now we have this motion on the floor, and in a COW meeting in August is when we would go into executive session for any kind of proposed negotiations for the town to negotiate with the developer. So this is basically saying we are still moving forward. So do you have a presentation for us this evening?
Yes, we do. We have a brief presentation. We'll go through things of kind of where we are, where we're going in some of those next steps. And, you know, I think the analogy I like to use a lot of times is right now we're selecting the dance partner, and some of those next steps are going to be setting the music and things along those lines. So, again, you know, disposition, check-in right now, just where we are, talking a little bit about some of the comments that came up at that public hearing, and again, what comes next.
All right, so everyone's familiar by now with the disposition process graphic that we usually share, but we're zooming way in, so there's just a few steps on this slide so that you can read it easily. We spent the last 8 months on Phase C, or that orange section, the project concept and development partner selection. And as you can see, item 12 is in pink. That's where we are this evening, as the mayor just mentioned. The town council may make a decision to forward the Spinnaker Real Estate Partners as the preferred and selected development team. And first, before we dive into the next steps, we wanted to talk a bit about the answers and information around what we heard at the developer Q&A last week, as well as the public hearing. And then as a reminder, tonight we're just picking that dance partner and then moving through Phase D, which is the green section. That's where the terms come into play, and we finalize that document that will guide the project through engineering design all the way through construction to ensure what everyone agreed upon takes place. So project fit within the neighborhood. We had a lot of concerns and questions around traffic, parking, and design. So we wanted to walk everyone through at a very high level the processes and different commissions that are in place to help ensure thoughtful growth that works within each neighborhood. So on the left, you see parking and traffic flows. Essentially, that starts with the development team before they even apply to the RFP. They're looking at what can potentially fit on that site. That's what we're asking for their expertise for, and they include those considerations in their initial concept. Then they move into their engineering and design of the project and apply for permitting. It goes to to Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as staff review, and they essentially just review it to make sure that it meets zoning requirements. That includes parking, traffic flows, and any potential additional infrastructure needed. We had some questions about, would extra traffic lights be needed or those types of things, so that's where that takes place, and that's analyzed. And then again, it's a planning for that intentional and thoughtful growth. Then moving over to project design, the town has design standards, and those are, again, established by zoning. The Planning and Zoning Commission oversees those, and we've mentioned in every presentation as well that this is a really great time for folks to be involved in our Groton 2035 plan as the POCD is being upgraded, and that guides development for the next 10+ years. And then for this project in particular, we wanted to showcase that the RFP included how the town council identified quality design as a priority for this project, and that it was complementary to the existing neighborhood. And so the Property Sale Review Committee, one of the main reasons they selected Spinnaker was actually for that thoughtful design, in particular that it's a walkable suburban village. There's different heights. It's not uniform. There's some concern it would kind of be a big Costco block, and it really pulled into consideration how it could fit within that site, including putting the height at the back near the hill and including placemaking. And again, excess properties are typically designed beyond zoning requirements because we have control of that property in that purchase and sale agreement. So continuing with the proposed project concept, we just wanted to touch on some of the items that are proposed for that design. So again, it draws inspiration from the residential streets that are found in New England coastal towns. The buildings are intentionally designed for that varying height and character. They're not uniform, and it has the feel of that traditional main street that grows organically over time versus just being plopped on the property. The second and third story buildings facing Pleasant Valley Road are designed as traditional tree-lined streets with sidewalks, parallel parking, and everything is so that the pedestrians have priority. And the larger buildings are set to the rear, and this allows for that lower scale in the front and a street-centric approach that allows for placemaking consistent with a walkable village. And the landscaping is designed to support the placemaking as well.
And again, as a reminder, for people that want to look at any of this information, it's all available on our Greater Groton webpage. And, I talked about this a little bit with the last agenda item, but I thought it was still relevant, just kind of touching base, because people have questions about, when are these things going to be done? How are they going to be done? The timing on it, and with like Triton Square, with those recreational amenities, they're going to happen. We're just going to see them more towards the end of the project. It's not something that happens in the beginning from a safety concern, but all of those items will be done. They're guaranteed to be done. And we have, for lack of a better term, we have hooks in the developers for them, either through the planning and zoning process or through what is done through the legal agreements that we, the town council, do as well. And, so Triton Square is an example of utilizing excess property to accomplish multiple goals in the town, creating much needed housing, growing the grand list, and there will be some, public amenities there as well. Just kind of touching on some of those next steps and wrapping things up. So, tonight we're looking for the council to move ahead and in the future adopt that resolution to appoint Spinnaker as that preferred developer. And then as we move into that next phase, we start getting into those finalizing the terms and legal agreements for the sale of the property. We, at the staff level, have already been talking to the town attorneys, letting them know we're going to be working on that option to purchase agreement soon if things keep moving ahead. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from the council, from the public, as well as our initial discussions a couple months back in executive session about some of the things that you're looking for. So we can start doing some of that legwork if this moves forward from this stage in the future. And, again, just forwarding tonight's recommendation to the RTM for their review. And I can't state enough that all this information is out on Greater Groton. We have been doing our best to be very transparent, very much sticking to the process of the excess property reuse process through this. And, we've had a lot of public discourse, multiple public hearings, and then, last week's open house, which is not something that's required as part of the policy, but we're trying to go above and beyond to let people have access and ask questions. And that's where we are right now. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, and before we begin, I just want to say that what we're going to be discussing here is not negotiations. We're not putting in things for negotiating at this time. And a reminder that we had an RFP. We put requirements as well as requests in the RFP. It is now to keep this in mind, even in future discussions, of not deviating from those, to trying to change the perimeters from the RFP now that that has already been, the bids have already come in and selections have been made from, after the RFP has already gone out. So, all right. Did I see some hands? Counselor Pacino?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the mayor. In the public hearing, we had some folks with some pretty big feelings about the park. How have we addressed that situation to make sure that that park is operated, maintained, and kept useful in perpetuity?
So we haven't finalized that yet, but that would be something that we're well aware would be a negotiating term within the purchase and sale agreement. And so there's ways that you can memorialize that there, an easement, having it tied to the land. Triton Square does, the public access is in perpetuity, and that is recorded and tied to the land regardless of the owner. So there's a lot of ways we can go about that, and I imagine that would probably be the number one thing on the table for working with Spinnaker. And they mentioned in their Q&A response, they're well aware that's a large priority. That's why they included it in their RFP response. So I think that's something we would just make sure was in the purchase and sale agreement as we move forward.
And
Fantastic.
it'll also be, as Corinne said, it's been front and center in the RFP. We've been talking about it. Spinnaker's heard it at the public hearings. They know they need to do a very thoughtful design on that public park. Once we get into some of those next phases, once they actually have some type of signed agreement with us, they've committed to doing outreach with the neighborhood, with the public, to get some feedback on what people are looking for within that park. I mean, they've heard some of it from the public hearings, from comments from the council. So those are things that are also going to happen at the next stage. We're not there yet, but it's something that will be addressed, has to be addressed, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts of it not being addressed.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Borderline?
Thanks. I remember the Triton Square, and that was a big deal, was, saying, okay, what if this owner sells, that space? And so that was great that was kind of locked in, and that was definitely something that we talked about. So, but for me, I guess I might abstain or vote no tonight. Again, it's nothing against the developer, nothing personally. It's more about process for me, as a person who was on the, had trouble with our process for development and things in the past with other developments way before this. And then I was part of the committee who made the recommendation to change the process. I'm just still not comfortable with the process. I speak solely for myself. There's certain ways in which I wish we would approach this. And I feel that we could have carved out a minor acre of land or less prior to this, and the town could have kept it. Again, also, my concerns are, I was all for Trident Park, Trident Square, but I think we're getting, some of the people who reached out to me directly, getting kind of heavy over there with housing all in one area, and folks say it's just not fair. Also, my concerns that have been addressed from constituents is the fact that they feel that we can keep talking about affordable housing, and it's not happening in a manner in which, again, we meet the Connecticut standard, but I know a ton of people right now that are struggling to afford their homes. They can't afford $2,000 a month on a single-family income, making barely minimum wage. And again, this one will not have affordable housing, therefore I can't put my support around it fully. So again, it's nothing against the developer, it's nothing against the process. I said my piece when the process came out, if you go back and watch the video, affordable housing, and it's just not enough affordable housing. And with that, again, we meet the state requirement. They also count.
Let's wait until Counselor Borderline's done with her time.
Can you add my couple seconds back, please? Thank you. With that being said, they count military housing as affordable housing. They also count senior housing. When you actually strip it down and look at affordable housing for family, whatever your dynamic is, family with children, that affordable housing is way lower, and that's not being captured. And that is a concern for me. So, for example, as I look online, Trident Park's offering free month's rent, trying to get people in there. Triton Square, it is not affordable for this community. We can say we need housing, we want housing. I've heard everything from, if we do this, maybe people will move out of their single family homes and open it up, and it will open up more affordable housing. right now, there's more high-income housing that is not affordable to folks, and I'll take my second turn later. Thank you.
Your question, Counselor Pacino?
Through the mayor, Council Bordelon mentioned there was no affordable housing in this project, and then mentioned, again, there's not enough. And I was just wondering, which one is it?
So there's actually, in this proposal right now, it's going to be somewhere between 10 and 20% of the total units are going to be affordable. That's something that's still under negotiation with the council, and I prefer not to get too much deeper, but there will be affordable housing as part of this development. That's something the council made clear in the RFP.
Thank you. I agree. I remember that. Counselor Good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to speak for the rental community in Groton and affordability. Market rate at 95% capacity in any rental development means your rents are too low. Any property manager will tell you that. Your rents are too low. We don't have enough apartments in Groton to stabilize our rent. So affordable housing means a lot of different things. Appreciate it, thank you.
Counselor Bordelon.
Thank you. Again, not sure what the percents are, right? Like, to me, I was looking for, again, I didn't have the votes, but an RFP that was gonna come out and bring in affordable as its major driver, not just the caveat. So if there's 180 units, that percent is still not determined. Again, on the backs of the folks that are waiting, if this is the theory that if we make these high-end housing for people who can barely afford them, even seniors I'm speaking with recently, can't leave their house when their mortgage is already paid off and all they're paying is taxes to vacate that home for a $2,000, $3,000 rent for a studio or one bedroom. They can't afford it. It just doesn't make any sense to them. So with that, as a family here, military family, my son stationed on the base, he's starting to look at housing. Can't find anything affordable. People making $55,000 single can't find housing that's affordable. That is the concern. And so again, it's nothing against the developer. It's nothing against the process. It's about how it's not the right development. And I wish that a piece of this land was just not even part of the process and was moved forward and the town owned it and said, we're gonna make this a park. Versus leaving it to the developer to decide. We could have said, we're gonna pull this small piece off. So for me, I'm gonna abstain it now. I'm gonna be part of the negotiation process and hope that the right percent of affordable housing is there. I believe in mixed income housing, as I've been saying for the last 7 to 8 years, where you have all income levels under one roof, from the highest to the middle to the low, even percents in all of our units. That is truly the model that we should be moving towards, because you do not want all affordable housing and have people separated and segregated, like unfortunately what happened many years ago, way before our time with Branford Manor, just making a low-income section. So with that, people are getting maxed out, boxed out, and by building this, it doesn't mean that people are gonna just come and stay here. It's gonna be, it's just, that section of town is being overbuilt, in my opinion, on that one side of the road. And I'm very concerned with the traffic, very concerned with the density, and it's just not the concept that I'm right now putting my arm around, and verbally supporting. But again, that could change down the road, but for now, I may be an abstention tonight and wait to see what this council does or decides to do as far as negotiations for a proper park and the proper percent of affordable housing for families and folks. And it's not just affordable housing for families. It's single people that are 22 and 23 years old that don't want to live home anymore, that can't find housing. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Reiner, would you take a moment and explain supply and demand and the effect it has on the cost of rent when we are in a high demand for housing?
Sure. And I love talking about housing. This is kind of my thing the last few years. And, we've been talking about housing. This is why we've done housing market analyses. And, I think the easiest analogy I often kind of think about is what happened to used cars during COVID. There weren't a lot of them out there, prices skyrocketed. The same thing has been happening with housing since the early 80s. We have not been, since kind of the housing boom of the 80s, we have not been building enough housing. And we've been seeing that get dialed back more and more. And if you don't have supply, there's an immense demand. We need 6,450 housing units in just Groton to meet our demand. If we're not meeting the demand, what's going to go up? Prices. And what happens is, and this is any market, whether we're talking about housing, cars, food, building supplies, it doesn't matter. If there's not enough supply, the demand, if there's not enough supply and the demand is high, that price is just going to keep going up. And that's what we've seen happen here. Yes, we need housing at every single price point. We certainly do. We need affordable housing. We've been saying that. But we need also housing at every other market point in the town. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of subsidies out there from the state and federal government to build affordable housing. So although we'd love to have, development have higher levels of that, there's a cost associated with that. And if we're not willing to give humongous subsidies in the form of tax breaks to development in the future to build more affordable housing, we're going to have to find some type of balance. I could go a lot deeper. Also, right now, developers are having trouble getting things to even pen out with the cost of the supplies, the materials, and the labor. And, we've heard from people, well, I don't care, the developers are asking for too much profit. The developers, what they do for a job is they build our communities. They build it according to the way that we design them, according to our plan of conservation and development, our zoning regulations, and the densities that we set or the infrastructure that we have. We can help lower cost of development by directing growth and development to areas where we have infrastructure, like the Pleasant Valley School. We have water, we have sewer, great access to a great roadway and a commercial area. There's already a lot of walkability in that area, great infrastructure, great bones for development. It helps bring some of those development costs down, which then helps the ability to do things like really nice building design, green infrastructure, and some of that affordability.
And
I don't know if you want to weigh in.
sorry, if I may add on the park space, something to keep in mind is that the publicly owned park, if it were to be separated, the taxpayers essentially foot the bill for that park. And park space is tough. It's incredibly valuable in non-monetary ways to communities, but it's a double whammy. It costs money to build and to maintain over time, as you're dealing with, recreation bond and different things that you're very familiar with. But with this proposal, it's privately owned and publicly accessible, which also means that it's privately funded. So it's an incredible advantage to the town because you have public access in a park without essentially having to pay for that in perpetuity. And that's really the beauty of public-private partnerships. You own the land, you have the ability to negotiate this term. This would come next in our next step. And you would really get the best of both worlds while you're creating park space, but also not having to pay for maintenance in perpetuity.
In this council and previous councils over the last few years have been putting a lot more money into Parks and Rec staff and materials for us to actually maintain the parks that we have. In tough budget times, those are employees, in the time I've been here, I've seen positions not get filled in Parks and Rec because, budgets were tight and we didn't have that. Having this public-private partnership kind of eliminates some of that right there. This is going to be a park that is accessible to the town, to residents of the town, that is going to be very well maintained at no cost to the town and Groton taxpayers.
Thank you. Also, this is my time, thank you. I heard some concerns about infrastructure and sewer and roads and traffic and things of that nature. Who would be responsible for paying for such improvements if after it was looked at and they need to do improvements, such as the road needs changing maybe, or they need to put in different, sewer lines or whatever it is? Who would be paying for that? Would it be the town?
Generally, it's the developer that pays for those infrastructure improvements associated with the development.
Thank you, because I think there was some misinformation that I had heard at one of our meetings by a citizen who wasn't sure. I think this town council process has been completely transparent through every phase of this process. I give you, the town staff and Mr. Burr, much kudos for bringing us to this point, and how you have at just about every meeting gone through every step and how it has been, and you have explained it to the community, I think, better than other previous developments, and I give you much kudos for that. And let me ask you, I've heard that there's a lot of dense development in that area. You have mentioned it in a community meeting, but who is responsible that there is now dense development in that area? I mean, it's not the town council. We don't do that kind of stuff, right? So who is responsible because that is a dense area?
So at the end of the day, it comes down to, it's the people of the town, because the people of the town, way back when, said, this is where we want to have infrastructure, this is where we want to have a sub-base, this is where we want to have EB, this is where we want to have Pfizer. We want to build sewer lines, we want to build water lines, we want to build roads, and we then want to, through our plan of conservation and development, this is where we want our development to happen. And you can see that through our zoning map that's been around for a long time. And the zoning has been very consistent in that area, well before probably I was even born. And now we're seeing things happen because of this, there's been more growth pressure because of this latest on-ramp with EB and how they're hiring and building a lot more, and we know that that projection is going to be out there for 20, 30 years of the construction schedule they have. So, and at the end of the day, I think to answer your question, our Planning and Zoning Commission, the members of that group who are, town residents, volunteers, they're the ones that approve these items. At the end of the day, they're the ones that approve our plan of conservation and development. They direct staff to write our zoning regulations, which we can write and advise. At the end of the day, our Planning and Zoning Commission approves those zoning regulations.
I appreciate that explanation. I am happy with what this council, as a consensus, put in that RFP. I think we were very wise. We had very thorough discussions about what would go in there, what would be our requirements, what would be our requests, and there was you could differentiate between the two, because we might not get all the requests, but the requirements were like, these are the things we want, and parks were one of those items. Having some affordability in there was also, I believe, a requirement in the RFP. I don't have a lot of time left, but would you explain to me how receptive usually are neighborhoods if you are going to put in a development that's all affordable housing? And what would you say is your just initial reaction, what you would hear from the community if you just said, we're going to put in affordable housing in this area? Or not just that area, but any area?
So I've been doing this for 27 years. I think I started when I was about 5. No, but I've never seen any development project that a neighborhood wants. It doesn't matter if it's market rate housing, high-end housing, a mix of affordable at multi-levels. Unfortunately, most people, when I talk about larger visioning and planning, people often know everything they don't want and they have no idea what it is that they do want. And when you try to get from folks what type of development that they want in a community, they have a really hard time with that. But in all my years, I don't ever recall neighbors coming out and saying, yes, we want to see development happen next to us. We want it to be a field. Whether it's an industrial park that people, I've seen, the last place I worked, they wanted that area preserved as open space when the state and feds had spent over $500 million getting it ready for development. There were neighborhood groups coming out, no, we want it as open space, when it was deemed as an area for that type of development, always zoned for that type of development. So that's really difficult. And one other item I want to bring up, just because Sealy, Triton Square often gets referenced of, we don't have enough of this here, and why is there not affordable housing there? When we were first tasked, I've been with the town almost 11 years now, of moving forward with some of these excess properties, we didn't have a process like what we do now. There weren't requirements for RFPs. Excess land was viewed no different than an excess truck and how we got rid of them. And Corinne's predecessor, Paige Bronk, and I worked together and put together this RFP process. And when we were working through those first few parcels, The biggest thing that we were hearing from people in the community, Pfizer had just knocked down some buildings, closed stuff down, was you need to grow the grand list. People were not talking about affordable housing. They were not talking about parks in the area. So when Triton Square, Sealy School went out there were no requirements in the RFP for affordable housing. There was no requirement for park space. And that was something, it took some time. I mean, as you see, these things take time. We were working with, an RFP and getting things out on Sealy for Triton Square. And it was when the council realized through the negotiation process, what could you do, developer? I know we didn't ask for this. It wasn't something that was on our radar. Can you do something about a park? And they said, we'll make something happen. So, they did that. And I think some of that was also reflected in, the price of the property. But that was something, and not that I suggest we start changing the goalposts or goal lines on this, but that was something that wasn't on the town's radar when we first started working on it. We've done a very deliberate job with Pleasant Valley from direction of the council of what you wanted to see, and all of those items that you said must have are in there. The things that you wanted to have, like affordable housing, are going to be in this project, as well as the park space as well. I don't want to leave that out.
Thank you. And I will say that the process we have is very long and drawn out, and I've said this before. The town could just put a for sale sign and could have sold it to any developer who wants it, and we would have been out of the whole mix of it. But what we did was the responsible thing, did the RFP process, because it has always been, even from the 2025 plan, whatever, for the schools, that these were, what?
2020.
2020, excuse me. They were supposed to, I'll take my second turn. The properties were not supposed to be made parks. When they went to referendum and they were trying to get us to have new schools and close down these neighborhood schools, it was always supposed to be to grow the grand list. That was the reasoning for everything. That's what they sold the public, and that's what the referendum was about also, and people agreed to that. So to change it all now, and I know, I'll just throw it out there, no ink, it happened to no ink. But I will say for this, I am on board with going forward with this proposal, the way we have been doing it. I think we've been very transparent with it. I think the new process is so complicated, long-running. It's been going on for a while, and the community has known every step of the way of what we've done. But it would have been a lot easier just to put a for sale sign and not know who would go there, because it's commercial property, so who knows what could have went there, right? I mean, could have got another car wash. I mean, honestly, you just never know. So I'm happy that we take this road, the long journey on these roads, very hard and complicated, but it's better for the community, for the town properties to know what's going to go there and have public input and have this council represent the people that elected us and for us to go forward with that. So I thank you. It would have been easier to sell, but is there anybody else that would like to have a comment? Okay. So with that, we're going to vote on the motion on the floor for 2025-521-4, selection of project concept development team for the former Pleasant Valley School property. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
That passes 7-0 to 1 with Bordelon abstaining. Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Parker. Seconded by Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? That passes 8-0 to 0.
Time.
Oh, it is 8:42.
Recording stopped.